Thanks for no- Thanks for nothing, Restream, for screwing us again. I'm so glad you take my money. Anyway, hello everybody. Hi there, and welcome to Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies, the show for movie lovers who love to talk about movies as much as they love watching them. Listen, folks, we've got a couple of really nice treats for you tonight, including a special guest co-host who will be joining us later in the show, Winnipeg born and raised action director Kyle Wong. So look forward to that, everybody. And then I think, you know what, tonight we are going to be talking about Park Chan-wook's Oldboy. That's a 2003 version. After being kidnapped and imprisoned for 15 years, Oh Dae-soo is released only to find that he must find his captor in 5 days. He's got 5 days to find his captor. And I think with that, let's jump to the overview. And even my overview has disappeared. So let me bring that up, and then we'll get the machine going. Stand by, everyone. What a shock! I got jerked around by. Oh my goodness! Nothing frustrating about this at all. All right, where are we here? Here we are, folks. We meet our very drunk Oh Dae-soo, played by Choi Min-sik, behaving like an absolute animal in a Seoul police station. He's eventually bailed out by his friend Ju-won, played by Ji-Tae, only to be immediately kidnapped and taken to the crappy hotel room / prison cell that will be his home for the next 15 years. Now, if you are given no explanation for your imprisonment, you are fed the same restaurant takeout every single day, and your only company was a television, you too might start thinking that suicide looks pretty good. Well, our old boy, Dae-soo, also learns that he's been framed for his wife's murder and that his daughter was thrown into the black hole that is foster care. So, suicide looks good to Dae-soo too, but after a couple of attempts are thwarted by his nameless jailers, he chooses to spend his days literally breaking his hands on a concrete wall while fantasizing about revenge. After years of this nonsense, Dae-soo is unceremoniously drugged, hypnotized, and stuffed into a suitcase, waking up in a grassy field on the roof of a high-rise apartment block with a suicide and his poodle for company. While Dae-soo sniffs at this guy like a dog, he states the movie's dramatic question, "Even though I'm not better than a beast, don't I have a right to live?" Dae-soo stops the guy from killing himself, only so he can tell him his story thus far, then leaves without so much as a, "So what's your deal?" While the suicide finishes what he started, Dae-soo goes for Mido's sushi, 'cause fresh is what you want after 15 years of takeout dumplings. Alrighty, folks, that's what we that's what we're looking at tonight. Now, first of all, let's all give a warm welcome to the man with the most, my co-host, Mr. Jim Chaboyko. Hello, Jim.
Am I on?
We can hear you, but
okay. Oh, there we go.
Reason the gizmo doesn't want to play.
Oh.
Anyway,
there's some evil Korean puppet master behind it all.
If only it was that simple. It would make our lives a lot more interesting. Okay, next I want to welcome our special guest co-host, a man film director, local film director I've worked with myself. He's an award-winning director of a number of Winnipeg-based crime action thrillers, short films, including The Vendetta, and I will pin a link to that after the show tonight. My good friend, Mr. Kyle Wong. Hey, Kyle, how you doing?
Good. Rob, it's good to see you. Nice to meet you, Jim.
Hey, Kyle, nice to meet you, too.
Excellent. Thank you for inviting me for this tonight.
Well, you know what? Thank you so much for joining us. Although, I got to admit, after I really did, Kyle, think what we need is a guy who's directed action, is kind of immersed in that thriller noir kind of vibe. And then once I watched it, I'm like, I think we also need a classicist with maybe a minor in feminist critical theory. But anyway, thanks, Kyle. Thank you so much. It's going to bring a little extra to our show, that's understating it. So let me quickly keep working through the agenda. You know what? Another teaser for everyone. You really want to stick to the end of the show tonight. Next week, Jim and I are actually going to be watching a show that one of our regulars, one of our friends of the show, Shashank Vachari, actually recommended, and he was kind enough to do kind of an intro. It is an Indian film, and so he's kind enough from his YouTube studio in Chennai, India, was kind enough to do a short intro for us to give us kind of some of both introduce the film and some of the context. So stick around to the end. It's another treat for you. We're just jamming the treats for y'all. Now, I think we've got, before we get into the film, we do have a few people already in the chat. We got some viewers going. Let's say hi to everyone. All right. Well, Jelly Duck, let's all give the wave to Jelly Duck in Kuwait. Awesome.
Oh, it works better with three.
I gotta do it. I gotta acknowledge everybody that's there. It's good to see you all.
All right, so we got Jelly Ducks made it in the house. Saying, I only wish this movie was more bonkers. And then, so we got Shashank has made it in. Awesome, Shashank. We got Sean Chandler. Sean Chandler runs a much bigger whole YouTube operation than Jim and I. And Shashank are actually students of his. So it's great to see you, Sean.
That's me.
Okay. Yeah. And who do we got here? Oh, Kai Expo. I wonder who that is.
I'm just saying hi to everybody. It's like tweeting in the background.
Man. Oh, Richard and Katie in the house.
And somebody actually said the word Fowler not as a surname in this movie.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Noteworthy.
It's Katie's last name. So.
Oh,
yeah. Okay. And good to explain that.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get started. Why don't we, why don't we start with you, Kyle? Give us your first thoughts. Before we get into it, I mean, everyone should know by now, but you are in the spoiler zone. We talk about the whole movie, beginning to end. There's no, you may want to turn this down. So keep that in mind. Anyway, yeah. Kyle, what were give us your first thoughts, your first take on this.
Well,
this
okay.
Slightly, if only, was just a little more bonkers for Ahmed.
Yeah, all I could say is, first off, I am gonna get real about this film. So if no one has seen me before, I do get real about certain films. So I first saw this when I was.
Should I be saying also welcome to the swearing zone?
Yeah,
the F-sharp zone.
A lot of F-sharps that will be dropped tonight.
Yeah.
But I remember I saw this film back in university when everyone was like praising it, and this was right before I knew about it. And I remember watching it, and I heard like so many crazy things that happened in the film, and I just remembered watching it. And I remember Korean films were known for its like not over the top, but very subtleness of like certain graphic imagery, like someone getting their teeth pulled or someone getting their Achilles tendon getting sliced. That's a reference to another film that Choi Min-sik is in, if anyone knows what that is. But all I could say is like I remember watching this film and hearing about certain crazy things until I got into the story more, and that's why I praise about Korean films is they mention. This is the one thing about Asian films is they really put the story and characters on display so much more than Hollywood films. Sometimes there is like a lot of China's mostly propagandic, but sometimes Korean films and Chinese films have this type of characterization and individuality that they share out with each character. So you always see that character arc play out, whether good or bad. And you see that in this film with Odesu and Woo-jin's character and the whole twist at the end. You think like, you finally, Odesu's character gets his revenge. And then you find out, hey, Woo-jin just goes, by the way, you thought it was this revenge. No. I have a revenge on you. And you're just like, wait, what? And it always goes back to like that aristocrats joke where it's like, you told the whole school about this joke. Well, I have a joke for you. Guess what? You fucked your daughter. It's like,
what? It goes right down to the hint. I mean, everything's foreshadowed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you saw it. And it's only as I was kind of prepping it again, it's why does he have a fluffy white dog? Oh, that's right, because he had those fluffy white feathers for the angel's wings.
Yeah.
And that, like, I mean, even the purple that the suicide / foreshadow stock character, so it's all kind of there. But I think it really kind of comes home when the Woo Jin character sort of when he says, "You're asking the wrong question, man."
Yeah.
Jim, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking?
Well, I was I was originally thinking, oh boy, I hope I didn't steer us in the wrong, or not the wrong direction. But I sort of was wondering if I would be ending up apologizing to Rob. It was my suggestion. I had watched a few Korean movies in the last year, I think, and they're very full of ideas and all sorts of action and all kinds of stuff going on. And I never really, I sort of wanted to subject somebody else to that. I just didn't know it would involve teeth and tongues and all kinds of other things. But anyway, this sort of fit the mold for me, a big overstuffed Korean, I don't know, smorgasbord of weirdness. Having said that, I quite like parts of it. Psychologically, wow, there's a lot to unpack here. All the sort of the relationship between Dae-soo and Mi-do is just through the roof. And it's funny too, because in one way, except for the obviously the incest part, but in one way, a lot of it's wish fulfillment. I'm going to get locked up for 15 years and train and become an awesome fighter, because that's how that works. And
well, like you
it's
said,
ridiculous.
It says, hey, some fake training.
Well, he actually
could it be enough, right?
I wrote it down. He actually says imaginary training. Oh,
yeah.
I wonder if this imaginary training will pay off. Smack. I guess it does. And then he charges, does a Bruce Lee. Well, not quite Bruce Lee, but approaches this gang of 6 or whatever. But so some of that is probably wish fulfillment, but they turn it all on its head. And I think what Kyle was saying earlier, you're not in terms of depth and like showing the whole arc of the character. This would traditionally be like very posy, kind of a cool guy. Like he's been in prison and he comes out with skills, and it's that sort of he ends up sort of a cool guy, but he doesn't really, because at the end he has to sort of grovel, and he even does this dog imitation in front of the antagonist and that kind of thing. So they go through the gamut. It's almost like like an exercise in drama school. I mean that in a good way. Like he's running the gamut of emotions that this guy can express. He's not allowed just to be the cool guy, but he has to go through the whole thing. And I'm sort of eager to see what everyone else will say, because it's bonkers. Like I said, from the Bayou Tapestry hammer attack to the, I don't know what, they just, to eating a live octopus. It was a lot going on, but anyway.
Hey, the man wanted something fresh.
Yeah.
Again, 15 years of dumplings. I'd be like, the more alive, the better.
I should say too, and maybe Kyle, he probably has seen more Korean movies than I have had. I've watched about a half dozen in the past year. It's sort of a thing that I've been chipping away at. Food seems really important in these movies.
Yes, because there is in Asian culture, food is like a way of like gathering people, and just they could mean good thing or bad thing. Sometimes, like one film that Ang Lee has done, like food always brought families together, and that's always like the one thing about certain films. So
which one are you thinking for Ang?
It's called Eat, Drink, Man, I believe.
Well, I think I'll look it up. Okay, anyway, sorry, go on.
No, don't worry. And basically, food is always, it could be used as a plot device or as a framing device of storytelling. So, like the fact that the live octopus, that is actually a delicacy in South Korea. I actually found that out while on a cruise one day, and I'm just watching the show, and next thing I know, this one food traveler is like, "Oh, you guys do this." So he actually grabs the octopus, and then they would eat it live, and then it would just be hanging there, and it's an actual real thing, which was surprising. That I was like, okay, and the fact that they put it on film, I was like, okay, this is gonna be quite shocking, but at the same time, like, I've seen this before, and I'm not saying here in Canada we'll do the same thing, but it's actually a delicacy, just like how eating bugs and everything else in certain cultures, it is an actual thing. And yeah, that's the actual film, Eat, Drink, Man, Woman. It's interesting how food in Asian culture really brings people together, whether in grief or just in happiness or anything. It really ties all together, family mostly.
Here, I don't find them coming together over.
No.
But do you think? Here, let me. One of the things, guys, that sort of struck me was his animal nature. Like from the very beginning, he is just, and you know what, to a point where now looking at the movie and that scene with the suicide and talking about being a beast as he's smelling them and everything, but all his behavior is a selfish dog. He will not at any time, it's just, he started, even the flashbacks to when he's younger, he just can't, he has no control. And then to the food, what you're talking about, there he is at table with his, we find out later, his daughter, but there he is with someone, and he does not engage with her like a normal person would.
Yeah.
And she even seems to, if memory serves, there's a point where she tries to, feed him. She certainly has to care for him and bathe him. And then he's just, again, like a beast, an animal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
that's
think about it.
Yeah, there you go. The other thing that I was thinking about too is that this has also been done as an American movie with Josh Brolin in the lead. Yeah, I know, Kyle, and it's and
Please, Kyle, tell us how you feel.
Hold on, it was directed by, and I either didn't know this or totally forgot about it, but it's Spike Lee.
Spike Lee,
and I watched a little bit of the trailer just before I watched this one, and I ended up just watching about a minute of it. But there's it not shot for shot necessarily, but that early scene where he's trying to work his way out of the jail cell door and sticking his head and saying, "Who are you?" I mean, that looks identical. So I don't know if I'll watch the American one. Apparently, it wasn't very good. Kyle's agreeing with me. It just, what a weird thing. I don't know if I'd cast Josh Brolin in it if I had to, but I can't see the motivation for doing that, because it seems like a very not American film. Anyway, I don't know if you guys agree with me or not.
Do you think, Jim, that part of what was going on there, like I'm thinking of Spike Lee. Kyle, I don't know if you caught it ever. Jim and I looked at Da 5 Bloods, and I had a huge mean on for that film. And then as soon as Jim's talking about overstuffed and full, I'm like, I thought, there are a couple layers to this movie, and I don't know if you guys agree, but it's like Oedipus Rex is hiding in a pretty straightforward revenge thriller. Like, there's a bit of mystery, but it really is a noir revenge thriller, but there's Oedipus Rex in it. You take off that layer and it's like, oh, this is a spin on that, except he's not a brilliant king. He's this animal who only further just degrades himself. He is the beast who, feels he deserves to live. Like, does that, because I did not find myself overwhelmed in this movie, whereas Da 5 Bloods is just a hot mess of, Kyle, have you seen Da 5 Bloods? You've seen the American version of this.
Yes, and all I could say is the American version, it plays out like a beat for beat, and there is...
Okay.
The thing is, apparently there's a 3-hour cut of it, but it still plays out.
For the love of God, why?
Exactly. It's exactly like, as we talked about, everyone has a director's cut of this somewhere. Zack Snyder looking at you. But the whole fact is, there is always a lost in translation of how Asian films perceive to American audiences. And example of Train to Busan's being remade, and it's why?
Ooh,
and I'll keep asking.
That.
Yeah, and I'll keep asking, why do you need to remake this? And we'll go to Parasite. Everyone's asking yeah, Parasite's fine the way it is. Yes, leave Parasite alone, but don't remake it. we don't need an English version. We don't need that. All you have to do is just really watch the original version. And the fact that you said it's an Oedipus Rex type of feel, it does have that. And the fact that, what was it? Chan-wook Park actually recently made a film called The Handmaiden back in 2013, which was based off the Fingersmith adaptation. And
really,
yeah, and it plays out the same thing beat for beat, but they put in their own spin on it, which really resonates in people's humanity. And that's what the thing is about Asian cinemas, is we look at humanity in a certain way, whereas like you look at Hollywood films, it's just very, very dead inside most of the time. And that's the one thing about Asian films, is sometimes they have to be as in your face as they are, because it's the actual truth that you have to see about humanity most of the time. And some people don't know how to take it. Some people just like look at it and go like, I don't know, like no one's gonna understand this. And then some people that watch it, they're like, oh, we understand it. And it's like, do you really understand it? And then when people actually understand it, they're like, holy shit, that really makes sense. So for this, it's exactly like how you said, Rob, that can a guy like so filled with revenge, can he still like have the right to live with what he knows and what he has done?
Yeah, I think I'm wondering, like, there's that, like, first of all, just to kind of cover the Oedipus Rex subtext, or a second, you can't call it a B plot. It really is cooked into the story. The director, he explicitly said in interviews, I called him Ode Zoo because I wanted people to think of Oedipus. It was there, which I think is what elevates the movie into something beyond just your generic revenge fantasy.
Yeah.
And I kind of like what, and so to go back to what you're talking about, humanity, like any Greek play, the tragedy, there is a very kind of moral view of how the world and how humanity should work. So I agree with you there, whereas there's an American kind of, it's maybe in American cinema, especially Hollywood cinema, it's just so obsessed with the individual. It's harder to find a big Hollywood movie that's kind of going, no, we're going to make a comment on the capital H human condition.
Yes.
Does that jive with any of you guys? Like, I mean, that makes sense.
Well, just to append to what Kyle was saying there, and I don't think it's just Asian movies that Hollywood gets wrong. Of course, the version of Force Majeure, the Swedish, I think, film about the avalanche and the man decides,
and the family falling apart,
and the man grabbing his cell phone and running rather than taking care of the wife and kids. That was redone as a Will Ferrell vehicle, and that sort of was famously pretty bad. Again, haven't seen it, but and that's sort of like these, like this Korean movie and that Swedish movie there, and that's why it's sort of fun to talk about these things, is that there's stuff in it that we're probably going to miss, and probably a large part of why they were so successful in the first place. And when you get an American screenwriting committee, or however the film is made, gets their hands on it, they tend not to. I mean, I'm sure there's some cases when they do okay, but we're talking about the bad ones right now, so those tend to stick out a little bit more.
So many examples. Well, I think I'm going to watch the American version just to compare, and also to see what Spike Lee did with it. Because I mean, with this movie,
Kyle's laughing at you.
Well, it's don't get me, Kyle. Do not take this as a No.
It's mostly because like Spike Lee even disowned that film. That's why he says it's not a Spike Lee joint. Because,
okay.
So it's like
I don't know. He has no problem calling Da 5 Bloods a Spike Lee joint.
Well,
So-
two
Talk
things.
about wrecking your own brand. Oh yeah, go ahead, Jim.
We hated the Five Bloods before Chadwick Boseman passed away, so just wanted to put that out there. And also, what was my other point? I got overshadowed by this, according to Wikipedia, anyway, if it's at all correct, before Spike Lee, this was who was attached to it? Steven Spielberg.
I forgot about that fact. That is still, and Will Smith was going to be the main character.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh my god!
Can you imagine? I it's like when they cut The Shining. Those guys on YouTube or whatever. They cut The Shining to be a happy family drama. They have like Peter Gabriel, Salisbury Hill playing in the background. Tale of a Young Boy. It's sort of like I could only imagine something like that. It's kind of it's fun to think about though. Wouldn't be a good product though.
It'd be, you know what though? That's ripe for parody. And in this spring, this Christmas season, Steven Spielberg, SKG brings you this feel-good story for the ages.
SKG.
Oldboy.
Honestly, that just reminds me of like the
Spielberg and Pixar together.
That actually reminds me of like exactly like how David Fincher marketed his readaptation of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And it's like, here's the feel-bad movie for Christmas. I was like, he's not wrong. This movie's harsh.
Yeah.
Like, in the trailer, it says the feel-bad movie of Christmas. I was like, yeah, you really want to watch a movie about a hacker and a journalist trying to figure out a fucked up family? Yeah, that's a Christmas movie.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Shashank chimed in quickly here regarding Steven Spielberg and Will Smith wouldn't have been as good. No way. Now, Shashank, you have to tell us. He's one of your favorite directors all time. But are you talking about wouldn't have been as good as this one, the original, or wouldn't have been even as good as the one with Josh Brolin, directed by Spike Lee, but not a Spike Lee joint? So if you chime in in the comments, love to get a little more on that. Listen, guys, did this? Okay, we got the first take, but did this actually remind you of other movies? Like one of the comments. So I actually saw this with friends who are in the chat right now, and Richard said, as I was going on, I was saying, some of the shots in that reminded me of French New Wave. And more on that later. But one of Richard, if memory serves, he actually was talking about like old school, like Boris Karloff, and and I'm thinking, and Richard, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking, when they're doing the push in on like he's just staring, that flat stare, or her, just those brief moments of where it's just that almost Wes Anderson-y,
yes,
shot on the face. And but yeah, I think what other movies were you guys thinking? Like, I mean, oh yeah, go ahead, Jim.
I was thinking, and the whole thing isn't like Wes Anderson, and I'm one of those guys that I like cilantro. I love Wes Anderson, so that I don't know if that
cilantro and Wes Anderson. Okay,
cool. Some people hate both. Some people like one or not the other. Anyway, but I was thinking this is sort of like it's like kooky, like Tarantino, like when that freeze frame with the hammer, and they had the dotted line aimed at the guy's head, and all these little there's so many little tricks and fun things that they put in that they may only use one time. So I was thinking it's sort of like it's zany. It's got that sort of zany energy like Quentin Tarantino, but occasionally there's a couple shots, and I thought, does this remind me of Wes Anderson? And one of them was when Mi-do and Odesu were opening the box. They had slept together, and then the gas came in. They opened the box, and the hand of one of the bad guys was in it, and they're both looking at it with the blanket wrapped around him, and she just passes out. like she just sort of wipes out, and he just sort of looks at her. It's very deadpan, and that's that sort of that deadpan kind of thing that Wes Anderson likes. And there's a couple shots. There's another one I'm trying to remember. Oh, that woman in the elevator when he first comes off the roof, and he goes, "Oh, human female."
He's great.
Yeah.
and there's just. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on in this, and I quite.
Even as they're doing that handheld shot, keeping them in frame the way they do, and those ridiculous sunglasses, which is like a super Wes Anderson affectation. But I think all of his affectations are so steeped in the French New Wave and just the fashion of the time. It's almost like they're like, "Hey, let's mash it all up here." And I don't think Park is referencing like his the guys he got to do his soundtrack, because the soundtrack totally blew me away. I was not expecting this soundtrack, but they're actually the tracks of the soundtrack. They're actually referring to noir films, especially a lot of French noir films, including the 400 Truffaut's, the 400 Blows, and that. So it's definitely they were drawing inspiration from that. I think just as so it's almost like here's the center and over here's Wes.
Yeah,
color and over here is the hammer.
Yeah,
there's a couple shots like that.
An arty one,
and there's also that sort of reliance on printed materials that they don't. There's a lot of letters, there's menus, there's phone books, and that you see that especially in Isle of Dogs, which is animated, but there's a real sort of almost fetishization of printed material, especially with Wes Anderson, a little bit in this. But I'm not saying that they're identical, but there's a soupçon of it in this. I think. But,
it is still early.
Yeah.
Aughts. Cell phone wasn't as prevalent. And Kyle, was there any other movies that came to mind that Jim and I just kind of barfed a bunch? So
don't worry. Honestly, when thinking about revenge films back then, and especially me being the film student that I was, I really can't name any, because this is how bad I was in film classes. I fell asleep to most of them. that's the screwed up part.
Okay.
And yet I'm a filmmaker. Make sense of that.
Yeah.
But
that doesn't seem to stop you from having an opinion on a wide range of films you've seen.
Yeah, and the thing is, the more times I try to think about how certain revenge films and characterizations that I try and figure out, try and bring it back, it's the vast majority of films that I've seen back during film class or even on my own. Let's go with almost this. Man, I really can't. I'm really blanking on it.
No, that's cool, man. I mean, it's not a test. Listen, quickly, Richard does chime in. Thought my capture of what he was thinking was solid. I'm glad I captured his thinking there. It's always a risk. This is what Richard said. And he's going, what the... Jim thought you were also onto something about how it being zany and deadpan, that there is a weird dark humor. With the guy falling in the background, a little beat, but he's got to go. Man's got to eat sushi. He wants fresh. Yeah. Another Shashank chimed in. Now Shashank's loves the movie. Loved it, but he couldn't help shake off the feeling that it was a bit self-indulgent. What do you think on that? Would you agree, disagree?
I think it definitely plays on the whole revenge fantasy kind of feel of we all want revenge on someone who wronged us. That's the thing, and that's where everyone always gets that. Oh, I wish I could take this guy and fucking torture him. Example is the teeth torture with a hammer.
Yeah.
And also the power fantasy of let's actually go into this
imaginary training.
Imaginary training, and we'll go into the other thing about it, I will segue into that. So where he goes against these 6 guys, and he just grabs a cigarette, and then they kick him back, and he's like, okay, let's see if my training works. And then he fights these guys. It's like, it might have worked. Then he tries it on Mito, and it's like, nope, didn't work on there. And she took him out while on the toilet with the butt end of a hammer, or butt end of the knife. And then we get to at post-torture, and this is where everyone says...
Because she could show self-control. Sorry, post-torture.
No, don't worry. And we get to the main power fantasy of the revenge tale of like, let's see, let's go with the one-take fight scene where everyone talks about that main fight scene and tries to emulate it. But this is the penultimate like one-shot fight scene that is actually true, where here's where you're fighting a bunch of guys, and I love the cinematography of it because it feels so tight on the hallway, and that's why you don't see everyone trying to go like on the other side, because here's Odesu and all these guys, and then he would try and barrage as much as he can, but he's slowly getting tired because you can't fight that many guys without all these guys with 2x4s, all these guys with knives. They are going to hit you and cut you, and you are going to get drained. Because
but even the guys he's hitting, he's not. I guess there are probably a couple of deaths in there, but most of them are just they got hit right, and they're wounded, and they're crawling, and it's almost like both sides just kind of give up.
Yeah.
Not all right, and they're all dead.
Well,
and that's what realistically, even though they say it's anticlimactic, it's a real fight, because no fights actually last that long. That's how it's going to be, especially like everyone's just going to be like animalistic, and you see that animalistic nature that Odesu goes through with the hammer, trying as much as he can to get everyone, even hammering their feet, and then one guy just stabs him in the back, and they're all like, "Oh shit, did we kill him? No, he's still going at us." But you see that tightness of the hallway. You see that he's literally trying to get through, but it's all established in the beginning. You have to believe that Odesu is gonna try and beat all these guys, but at the same time, it's imaginary training. Imaginary training against a wall doesn't compare to the human body, and yet you don't know how many fights he's been in before he got in prison. Alongside that, how is he going to handle
that
these
first
guys?
scene in the cob shop shows that he's just a local businessman fool.
Exactly.
Do you think, guys, and here's kind of, and maybe this is a good segue. So Shashank here, he can also imagine David Fincher pulling off a really good remake, and that of course makes me think of the girl with the dragon tattoo. Now myself, I actually, and we can get into it after, put a pin in it, I actually prefer the original, not David Fincher's remake. That said, going back to the action scene that has been remade, not just in the remake, but there are now, since that action scene, references. But is it like, and I wanted to ask you this, Kyle, as someone who's directed action, do you look at a scene like that, an iconic scene, and do you go, okay, I would like to try that in a film, like hopefully set it up right so I could do that? Or there's some scenes where you're like, no, I want to come up with my own iconic scene, or like I could see in a parody, it's like, no, we're going to have fun with this. But
so it goes in 3 ways. It really goes in 3 ways. And I've done 2 of them. You see it in Vendetta, where we make this hallway scene seem like one take. And then we do it in The Line, where it's literally a one take. And I'll say this, we actually tried to emulate.
I'll make sure these are also linked in, I'll pin it in the top comment after the show, once the show's rendered. Okay, sorry.
No problem. And then basically in The Line, we actually tried to make it as video game influenced by a video game called Sleeping Dogs, where you see the main character fighting all these guys, and of course they barrage them, and then put them through a table.
Platformer? Is that what they call it?
A platformer fight scene, and that's a prime example of what Oldboy did. And yet everyone always tries to outdo the one take, where a prime example is the canceled Netflix series Daredevil. Everyone really had a hard on for that, and when Jasmine and I talk about it, we're like, why the fuck would you do that at the end? You should be tired, and you're blind, and not only that, just go get the kid. Just get the kid, and Atomic Blonde. Everyone talks about the Atomic Blonde one take, and it's literally a mix of like everyone just says, yeah, we want to do a one take and just put all this fancy flair, when really Oldboy gets it right, where here's a guy, we've seen how he is character wise, we don't know how he's fighting all these people, and yet it's anticlimactic because he's just like, oh geez, I did not realize fighting all these people is so much goddamn hard work. And really it's like it is that power fantasy of everyone wants to be that, I am so strong, I'm gonna beat all these guys, but really it's like it doesn't make sense. The fight
something worth looking up for everybody. It's called The Competent Man, and probably from an American or let's say a Western Hollywood point of view, that'd be Jack Reacher, The Competent Man. Like he's just super fighter. He's a man, but the competent man. But I think online, for anyone who's interested in a deeper dive in that very male fantasy, you'd look up Harry Heinlein. What the hell was Heinlein's first name? Science fiction.
Robert.
Thank you. Robert Heinlein's definition. And he really felt it was like, these are people that could be. Who's a fan of that. But for those of you out there, look it up. This is almost, I think what you're saying, Kyle, is this is almost like a bit of a subtle dig on that fantasy, especially although it's, you could see it in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Like everyone's got the, with the right training and commitment and, well, let's pick on Mulan Chi.
I don't even want to get into that one. Right I don't want to get into that.
Well, let's not forget the punchline of the whole scene. The sort of shot and chaser is the elevator ding, and there's the 8 guys with bars, and then he just walks right in, and then the next shot is the doors opening and everyone falling out. So that's sort of a play on. You don't see how it transpires, but it just does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Here, there's something. We got a couple of items. First, you know what, Shashank, back to your comment, and maybe it's something we can carry offline. But I actually find David Fincher so stylized. Like I think he would make, if he did make this movie, it'd be beautiful. Like it'd have a stylization, like the cinematography and everything. It'd be very artful. Not saying that this wasn't already artful. Like what's the deal with all the wallpaper and the different lines and the purple scarf, everything. But I think Fincher would take it to another level. But I think that kind of takes away some of the dirt under the fingernails. So I'm kind of that. I guess maybe I'm not completely disagreeing with you, Shashank, but I'm not 100% sure we'd really get a better movie. Maybe something better than my current director I love to mean on, Spike Lee. But now we got a couple other. Let's go comments here. The film that inspired. Are you referring to Jaws?
Yeah, I just was back and forth on him and mentioned Jaws being one of my favorite movies.
Gotcha. Okay, now Richard has a few comments here. So he starts with the fight scene in which he beats his fist bloody as training. Reminded me of the movie's theme of sacrifice. Also popular in American flicks where you need to get hurt in order to train or get better. Yeah, there's got to be some symbol there. Mm-hmm. But seemed to be a theme throughout the movie. Every character hurting themselves for every goal.
And that is kind of true. And actually, I'll bring this up. Like, I recently had my own kind of epiphany about this. And there's a TV series out right now. The first season is out. The second season is coming out, and it's called Warrior. And it is a great series that would have been Bruce Lee's show if he were casted in Kung Fu. And there's one character that says in like the season finale that warriors have two paths: get killed or get better. And really, that resonated to the point of like most main characters in certain films that have action or even just this warrior's way or path in it. They have those two choices, and really Odesu's like character arc of wanting his character to get better, but he also kills himself in a sense of that hypnotism at the end. So he did sacrifice his knowledge, but of course there's that ambiguous part in the ending.
But do you think, like and it would be interesting to hear what Richard, when he talks about sacrifice, there's self-sacrifice to a greater goal.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's sacrifice as in, like, there's just stakes. You've got a goal and there's going to be pain on the way. And I'm kind of wondering which one Richard's thinking about. But further to your point, Kyle, I'm wondering, like, what I kind of drew from it was, like, this character, even though, okay, he's hypnotized to fall in love with his daughter, to go find his daughter and fall in love. Like, I mean, there's some boundaries placed on him. But the key choices he had did not seem to be like he did. He started out well, and every now and then he starts like a good tragic character. It's like, oh, maybe you're on the right track, buddy. Like in his journal, who did I sin against? This is a journal of my sins. And then it's like, was it this person? I'm going to get him. Like every time he has an opportunity for personal growth and to advance, he kind of takes the route of violence and revenge. And again, back to that animal, like, no, I'm going to have what I want. I want revenge, and I'm willing to take that pain on, but it's about him. And right in what I kind of thought was sort of a late first act trigger, but that trigger of like when she said, okay, we have this address and it looks like she's in Sweden. Do you want to call her first? And he's like, no, I must have my revenge first. And that really does. Like, I think it's that moment where the character, if they did that, I think even the Ju-Win, he would have been like, you know, he's kind of the stand-in for the Olympic gods. You know, he's up in high in a tower and high. He sees all. What gods don't marry.
Yes, and that's the thing. Like, especially when you want, like, as a character and the audience, you want to like follow this character. You want to know the end result, and yet the end result ended up being so tragic. But at the same time, if he went the other route of just knowing his daughter, it's like it would go in a different way. If like, oh yeah, here's his daughter, which the remake did.
It was a fundamentally different movie. Like, it wouldn't have been the tragedy it is. He had like, and I don't mean this. This is what makes a great film versus a bad film. You believe the character is making the choices the character would. Unlike, I think one of the key things Jim and I saw Run This Town last week, and one of the disappointing parts is I felt so bad for one character who you could kind of go, as great as the actor's delivering, thinking about the Bram character, Jim, you know he was written that way. Here, I don't feel like he was written that way. I'm like, I'm buying that he's going for revenge. His core is an animal, and at every opportunity he's given, he tries to have some self-control, but in the end, it's like, no.
Well, even he's given that choice that he could walk away from it all, or, you know, walk away and not know the motive of the antagonist, or stick with it and find out why he was imprisoned. And at any point he could have said, no, I'm done. But he decided to stick with it. I can't remember how it was presented to him, but I think the antagonist said to him, you know, here's your options. You're free to go, or, you know, you can stick around and figure out why this happened to you. So,
the actual choice was, you can kill me right now, or you find out.
Sorry, thanks.
Well, and then that's more like by then we're deep into the Oedipal kind of like, I mean, there was Oedipus's flaw was he had to know. Like everyone up to, do you really need to look there? Do you want to? You don't want to. You're not going to like what you find out. And that's kind of they sort of shoehorned a couple of things in because it's still a revenge film. And Oedipus Rex was not a revenge film.
No.
It was how do I, heal the land. Oh, I was the problem. But I want to, let's go back to the comments for a quick sec. Because both, first of all, Shashak looks like him and I are on a similar level, which is always good. Richard kind of chimed in on sacrifice thing. He was talking about kind of both types. Now, here's an interesting. Okay, this is really cool. Okay, so Richard says, he's talking about throughout the film, the guy lets his hand be cut off. That is a Dune reference if there ever was. He is not, and maybe this is where I'm pulling this stuff up because I'm getting excited for Dune. But the guy who lets his hand be cut off, the daughter, the bad guy, they all basically treat themselves as bargaining chips. Yeah, you know what? She's willing to sacrifice, I guess, her virginity. Like, one of the few characters who didn't. Well, unlike all the Greek tragedies, it's always the woman who get it, even though they've done nothing wrong. But I think that's interesting. Richard, we could almost break it into types. Like, I mean, the guy who lets his hand be cut off is like, he sold his hand. He's like, I'm willing to sacrifice this because now I own my space.
Yeah.
I'm not, which was kind of cool. You know what? The daughter is one of the more problematic characters in it all, but that's really cool, Richard. You brought that up. Even the way, and here's a question for you guys, like, what is happening in that? And it's mirrored. Like, again, the mirroring in that first scene with the suicide, and then later on, it's Ju-in and his sister. And how did you interpret that scene? Like, what do you think? What do you think they were trying to get us to think, to feel then?
At the very end, or
not the very end, but you're well in the third act. He knows the mystery is solved. Oh, when I was spying on Ju-in and his sister, and then I blabbed because I just can't shut my mouth. And it is, but it's like the scene is mirrored. Like, she's holding his hand, just as Odaisu was holding Buddy's necktie.
Yeah.
Purple, like the purple elements are just kind of ever rolling. Like, I mean, regardless of the foreshadowing and the mirroring, what did you guys think of that scene? Like that end scene? Like, because I was like, it's not 100% clear to me. She's like, well, I know you're afraid, so she has to die. Like, it's, because it goes to the core motivation of his antagonist.
Yeah. Well, I was sort of wondering if that was if they had both gone up to the dam because it was some sort of pact, and I didn't quite end up with a conclusion, really. I did like the effect where he was in the elevator as a grown man and he was holding on to her hand. Like, that kind of was a strong image, and then it cut to the dam at the end. But yeah, I literally finished watching it which is how I like doing it, about 15 minutes before we went to air. So I'm still sort of tossing that around. What did you Kyle?
Like, definitely the subplot was definitely about love in a weird way, and Woo-jin actually mentioned it, like, right after Odesu, like, gives his own sacrifice and, like, pleading with Woo-jin, like, please don't tell Mito about this. Please don't hurt it, because he did not want like that to destroy her, in a sense. So that theme of sacrifice was there, and Woo-jin actually says this. Now do you understand? Like, he says it in his own way, and I can't remember the exact line, but he says, "Can you understand the love that me and my sister have now that you and Mito could have?" Like, and the fact that it affected Woo-jin's sister, that she's literally sacrificed herself to, like, have Woo-jin, like, continue to live on where she couldn't live on anymore. And now that, like, that sort of memory that Odesu has with like knowing that Mito is his daughter. He wanted to be happy, and he wanted to be in love, because that's pretty much what everyone wants in a sense. And yet he was willing to sacrifice that memory and that part of that animalistic nature, because you go through that whole film with his animalistic nature with him. And now he's like, just let that part of me die now so I could be happy and in love with what I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, well, here first, I think this is kind of a cool question. Another bummer of a Korean movie. But Shashank, and it'd be interesting to hear what other folks in the chat would say. And I think actually a few in the chat have seen both films. I have not seen Parasite, so I couldn't. But I kind of have an idea. I've seen Snowpiercer. Which is similar kind of bizarro world class analysis, ugly Gonzo movie. But okay, anyway, enough of that. Which for you guys, let's start with you, Jim. Tell us which if you're stuck with only you here are your choices. You can only pick one. Which one is it going to be? Oldboy or Parasite? I like the way Shashank puts it. For your viewing pleasure.
Viewing pleasure.
Yeah.
That's
Do I do Star Wars or Blazing Saddles?
That's an interesting one. I did see. I did see Parasite in these things. They used to have these things called movie theaters where you could go in and watch it on a big screen with a full sound system.
Wait, those things existed?
Oh yeah. Yes, they did, son. Young man. So yeah, it was actually one of the last movies I think I saw in the theater. Excuse me.
Great sidebar.
That is a good question. This one has sort of a bonkers energy, and it's the music I quite liked to it. So maybe this one. I mean, Parasite's very sort of. I mean, it's dark and rainy as well, and there's a lot of bad wallpaper, and so I don't know. Maybe I'd go with this one, Oldboy. Yeah, Parasite's good too. I probably need to watch it again though.
Okay, Jelly Duck Ahmed and Ahmed, what's the temperature in Kuwait right now? But Jelly Duck chimes in. He'd rather watch Oldboy, but I haven't seen it. Are you referring to Parasite or Oldboy? Kyle, what's your choice, man? If you're stuck,
the thing is, like Parasite, I've seen in theater, and the fact that it's playing nonstop on TV now because of Crave TV. Thank you, Shaw.
Yeah,
but I've seen it enough that I understand where the hype is coming from everyone else, and me understanding so many things about certain films, and watching Oldboy over and over again. I can watch Oldboy over and over again, but you know me, I'm like, there's no two choices for me. I would say I would watch I Saw the Devil, because I Saw the Devil is a really harsh film to watch and trudge through, because like it takes the revenge.
Or is it buddy from? No, I gotta look it up.
It's another Korean film that is going to be tried to remake again. Thanks a lot, Hollywood. But it takes the revenge fantasy to a much more harsher level.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say harsher level, it's really fucked up. It's fucked up beyond Oldboy's revenge fantasy, because like when you watch I Saw the Devil, I remember. Okay, I have to go on this tangent. Like, I remember watching Oldboy because I want to see what everyone talked about Oldboy. It's like, oh yeah, you gotta watch it because of this action scene. You gotta watch it because of this twists and turns. And then I watch it, I'm like, okay, this is pretty interesting. I like it. And then when everyone said, let's watch Parasite, because everyone's talking about, I watched Parasite about it. And as we talked about, classism. Yay. And yet the basic technicalities of the films. And this is where, like, exactly about Korean films, it doesn't overemphasize anything. It's very simple in storytelling. doesn't overemphasize anything. And then the one escapism that I always get whenever I know that there's in between, the in between has always been I Saw the Devil, and it is one movie that like I watched to get over a breakup. that is a screwed up part.
What is that saying about you?
I don't know. Like,
oh my goodness! The second I keyed it into Wikipedia, the predictive text, it's I saw apparently the devil. Okay, sorry, Kyle. Continue.
No, and I remember watching I Saw the Devil because like,
oh heck, we've seen these actors like,
and it's Choi Min-sik is in this film, and no spoiler alert, but he is the main villain, and it is definitely like he is a really good actor, and for him to be the villain in this film, you cannot fathom like how he is in this film in Oldboy to this, and it is really, really insane what happens in this film, and I don't want to say anything about it, but the revenge actions that happen in this film is very, very, very much more insane than what you saw in Oldboy. And I just remember watching it. I just remember watching it going like, okay. Oh, wow. Oh, what? Wait, what? Oh, okay. And I just remember going back going like, okay, can I still watch this? Can I still watch this? Yeah, let's keep watching. And then, oh boy, this film, and it goes back to like people's humanity. Like, can you actually go through this? And especially what mindset? Not just mindset. What will happen to you once you actually have your revenge? And that's why I liked how it explored these certain themes of the human condition of what would you do.
Well, it's like, I mean, I wonder if, and I don't know if, if you guys would agree with me. Well, first, I'm going to just kind of highlight Hye-jeong because the thing won't feed it all. Damn you, Restream. I picked Parasite because it adds that humor element, and you don't know where the film is going until a point, so rewatching helps to unpack the details. Again, Hye-jeong, he's definitely got a strong opinion here that Oldboy was self-indulgent. I'm again not sure I agree with him on that, but you know what? We're not here to convince each other necessarily. We're here to learn. We're here to find out what other people think, and that's what I think makes our viewers awesome. Kyle, when you're trying to think about, like, when I think about this movie, there is the revenge behavior, and it's all pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But the way it's subverted, how the person who we're supposed to, in a way, I was starting to think that this is a movie where we're actually following the bad guy.
Yeah.
And it's the twists at the end that actually kind of say, like, in some ways, because I don't know about you guys, like, I mean, whenever I've looked at Greek tragedy, especially because we're so far away from the moral sins they committed, that it's really hard to understand why was Oedipus. It seems like the oracle sent him on this wild goose chase, kind of like in this one where it was the hypnotist / witch. But here I think like, we were kind of at every point, it was almost like the nature of humanity. It's almost like we're being faced with a choice, and yes, he's manipulated, but it's like from the get-go, he was always, I'd rather piss in the corner of the cop shop. I'd rather just get drunk. I'd rather miss my daughter's birthday. Like, he was just such a dog that all I think Woo Jin, in a way, the god in this, the creator, the great attractor that made everything work, this Rube Goldberg machine of horror, was just to kind of, drill it home. You're a dog, but even a beast has the right to live. I that's where it's kind of thinking that the biggest themes are, that in a way, it's like you've got a choice between being a beast and a man, and some choose beast. And how do we judge those beasts? Beasts. This is not like I'm, some weird proponent of.
No. And,
like, I think that's part of what he's poking at hard.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, it does play like the anti-action hero type where always the action hero is always this animalistic beast. That's the truth of most action films. It's like, yep, do they even have a proponent? Do they even have like emotions about it? And that's the one thing that this film actually explores, of being like this. Okay, if you do think about revenge, does it affect anyone? And the thing is, the film doesn't even have him have that revenge aspect. And when you find out that, oh yeah, he just had a big mouth that he just spewed out this secret. And
like all those Greek tragedies where it seems like this small mistake or a sin and the punishment is way out of scope.
And
the hidden kind of story in this, or the sort of the unexploited story, is that this prison hotel is an industry. It's not just our buddy. There are many rooms like this. I think the grid of television security cameras was 16. I think it was about 4x4. It might have been 5x5. But there are like 25 people that were stored away in this hotel. And I think what was they were talking about it, and I'm going to paraphrase badly. But it just said, if somebody has wronged you, if there's a woman who said too much, or if there's, and they had men and women and, different ages, and it was just crammed. I mean, this is what they did. And that was kind of funny.
Side of the top. Like, he'd obviously been in there for a while. Like, he's all part of the construct, right? Here's first I just wanted to and I couldn't agree with Shashank more here. There's such a sense of helplessness. I think that's part of the tragedy thing that we're watching. We're seeing a train wreck in slow motion. And I think that kind of goes to the talent of the director of the filmmaking here. Like which leads me to my next question. Actually, before my next question, you know what? I need to bear with me. It's time. It's that time.
It's like
the three. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell.
Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling.
All right. Let's talk about maybe just some of the nuts and bolts of the craft making. And this, I'm going to start with you, Kyle. Is there, and maybe, you can start from, hey, what did you really like? Or maybe in some ways this might be easier just to say, okay, this didn't quite work, but otherwise, I don't know what. Testify, brother. As
definitely,
I
like the running motifs of like the color purple was in there, like signifying this is the villain's color.
Yeah.
Not only that, like how
and the villain even.
Yeah,
like,
and not only that, like it had a proper way of telling the time, which is for the TV.
Crying out loud, purple is the color of royalty in the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. Continue.
No, don't worry. And like the way it told how the passage of time, it's like this is how 15 years passed, like through the TV. And it showed like Korean side, not just the American side of like here this person became president. Here this thing happened in 2001. But other than that, like the fact that all he ate was dumplings, and then where did this dumplings come from? I ate this fucking dumpling for goddamn 15 years. I want something else, but where the fuck did you get this dumpling? And then one little note that he got from it is like, okay, it came from there. The fact that him and Nido, and even Woojin says it's like, can they actually fall in love that quickly? And it happens. And literally, that was like always the jab in the action genre of like, yep, the main character is going to do this thing, but he has this love interest. What are they going to do? They're going to fall in love in like less than half an hour in the movie, which is always bullshit. But yet you find out here it's like it's going to happen because they're both hypnotized to do it,
manipulated into it.
Yeah. And the fact that the whole twist of like we find out, here's my revenge. Here's why you put me in. You can die now. But it's like, no, you're supposed to ask yourself, why did I imprison you? And yet it slowly starts unfolding, and you're just sitting there going like, wait. There's a plot side, and it does have that anticlimactic feel where you know that Odesu finally gets his revenge, but then you're like, there is more to this. That this feels anticlimactic, and you finally figure out that Woojin planned all this right to this point, and you go, holy shit, dude! Do I sympathize with Odesu more, or do I sympathize with Woojin more? And who's actually in the wrong? And that's really where you ask that moral question: who's really in the wrong? And that's what I liked about most Asian films that ask that morality. And really, it really is a basic human condition of like you see it, and yet how do you answer this? And that's what I really, really love about this film, is asking those questions and really not
giving us any pat answers.
No.
You're kind of left. What about you, Jim? What from a and just want to shout out Richard. This is a great question. Great, more of a statement. In the Hammer scene, I was waiting to free all the other prisoners, and Richard continued to wait. Because Odesu is not that guy. Jim, what from a film perspective, from a what worked for you, what didn't work for you? Was there anything where you're like, I'm not buying that?
Yeah, I mean, when you mentioned that the hypnotist was more like a sort of a witch character, that makes sense to me.
Because I'm really doubling down on the whole Greek.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I can buy that. You think, all we do is hypnotize you and you fall in love, and you sort of go, it's like the one punch knockout, right? The convenient knockout. But
like what Kyle was talking about with that kind of action trope of they fall in love.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of that, but I mean, either you buy in or you don't. And this is obviously not, it's not like a kitchen sink drama from England in the 1960s, right? It's a certain kind of a weird, I mean, it was a manga apparently, and adapted from that. So, if you're along for the ride, you're along for the ride. For me, this is one line, and I actually took about a minute to write it out. And the way the line was translated in subtitles was, this is sort of about the first 20 minutes in, if you stand outside a phone booth on a rainy day and meet a man whose face is hidden by a violet umbrella, my advice is you make friends with television. And it just there's so many weird lines like this that you just wouldn't ever see in too many other things, but that work. And there's weird shots, and there's when Hwang, his colleague and former classmate, comes to collect him from I actually like the police station scene because he was so relentless about being such an asshole that, and he's kicking his legs, and that's what I was thinking of. I can't imagine
his clothes come off.
Just and I can't imagine Josh Brolin doing that. I almost imagine sort of like a Will Ferrell type doing like a one of his serious or overtly comedic roles, But that whole scene there where it's the montage of him, getting in trouble. His friend finally comes to collect him and says, he's really not that bad, and his shirt is done up like Marianne in Gilligan's Island, like all the buttons have on, and he's got that little country girl sort of, it's tied at the bottom, and just all these little weird details that are just like, not like a messy Wes Anderson, just like stuff you might catch or might not catch until you watched it a second time. There's lots of that kind of stuff. A lot of great shots. I watched a couple scenes over, and then I saw a couple again in your rundown of it earlier in the show there, Rob. And there's so many neat shots, and just even the him waking up in a suitcase and he kicks it open and he's in grass. So you think, oh, he's on a field. Well, he's on top of an apartment building that has grass on the top. Like there's just all these little sort of details that are really cool in it. There's one sort of sequence of scenes in the middle, and I know this is sort of in the "it is what it is" file, but he suddenly doesn't trust Mi-do, so he ties her up. And then he realized something. He goes to run to the building next door, and then Buddy says, "Oh, you left the door open, and she's still tied up." And he goes back, and she's, so he assaults her, and then he gets back to rescue her, and she's been assaulted. There's, sort of doesn't treat women it doesn't treat men the best either in this movie. But that sort of I sort of worry a little bit about that, but. I mean, it's a cruel movie, and it doesn't really let anybody off the hook all that much.
Not at all.
Yeah, so there's that. But a little bit of oddness about how it dealt with the women characters, but not surprising actually.
Yeah. Well, I think and I you know what, and yeah, feel free, anyone in the chat or Kyle. Like I'm wondering if. Needless to say, this movie does not pass the Bechdel test.
No.
Good ISO shot.
Yeah. I'm getting better at this producing.
Yeah.
We'll all work it out. But I also would say that it's, now mind you, I'm not making any excuses. I'm just going to report it like it is. It's gender role stuff is disturbing, even when, like, I guess the whole part of the gag of why she's a sushi chef is her hands are colder than most women's hands, which are allegedly warmer. I don't know if that's actually a thing. But yeah, it's gender politics. There is no, I wouldn't say this is no Parasite. It's not class conscious. But I wonder though, and this is not to give it an excuse or cut it any slack, but there's a part of me kind of going, no, this is a Greek tragedy. Like, you've got a modern veneer over a much older story where, the women are always, like, even in Oedipus Rex, because she's kind of Jocasta, the mother of Oedipus and wife, because then he's a brother and a father to his children. But this character is a combination of Jocasta and of Antigone, who actually does, like, because he's blind, Oedipus Rex is blind, takes him out into the wild, like, goes to, like a loyal daughter should, in that Greek morality, classical and, pre-classical Greek morality was, he committed a sin, but his daughter's a good daughter who, follows him to make sure he's cared for before he dies. Like, I mean, in a way, she's the only clean character in the whole thing. But is there any, like, I mean, and this is, I don't mean to, I don't want to, Kyle, like, make the mistake of, what's the trope? Interchangeable Asian cultures. But is there anything that you're aware of Korean culture, notwithstanding you're actually a Chinese Canadian, but that you might, that you could inform us on this? Is there a Korean cultural thing that we also could add a layer to?
That I'm not sure about.
All of Korea, Kyle.
I know.
I'm not sure it's a perfectly reasonable answer. Like, again, I'm not trying to make an interchangeable Asian culture gag.
This is where I kick in and I go, as someone who's been to Korea thrice. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, like, all I could say is definitely it is that old school mentality for certain films to actually treat the women as
smart Alec. Him and his stuff. Hammer time. Okay,
so like, definitely the film does do the lamp trope and the damsel in distress trope, which is definitely played out. And all I could say is there's a lot of movies. A prime example of I Saw the Devil really does the damsel in distress trope again, and yet there's not really. Like, this was definitely made before a lot of
this was definitely made in 2003, where a lot of those tropes are still playing out to now. Like the fact that a lot of
there's a good chance none of us would have been talking about this 17 years ago. Not to say that makes it right or wrong.
No.
It's just, it would not have been something where I'm actually, like, it's part of my checklist now, the gender class politics.
Exactly. And whereas, like, Mito could definitely try and fight back. Mito could have, like, actually, like, had that chance to, like, find out about the truth herself. And instead, she just, like, sees the box and just, like, oh, there's these. I'm just gonna put this on, and then, let alone side effects, she could have actually, we could have actually had like what's it called? At one point where she actually looks in the box and just, or the guy that gave his hand away, he could have just said, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna tell you what's in this box. What's actually?
I suspect that guy follows orders quite clearly.
Yeah,
he's got too many guests in his operation to go.
Exactly, and the thing is, like, it doesn't really treat women as equals in the film, and I really don't feel like the film has like most films, they haven't aged properly.
This part does not age well. Like even the whole, when she's talking about when I am ready, even though I might say stop, go. It's like
it's just like, really, we're gonna go this way? No, it definitely did not.
Hey kids, family movie night.
It's exactly like the aristocrats joke. It's like, let's talk about you remember this joke? Here's my idea. What do we call this movie? Or what do you call this act? A Serbian film.
Yeah. Okay.
For those that don't know that joke.
This is all part of sort of I don't know if it's, they call it his Vengeance trilogy. So there's Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, which is also on Hoopla. And this one, and then Lady Vengeance. So maybe that's got it. And I haven't seen that one yet. But I've seen the first two now. So that's sort of the next obvious one. I should mention too, The Handmaiden I saw on Canopy. Not sure if it's still on that, but that's an interesting viewing. You might have to wash your eyeballs after that, but it was quite good.
I want to get to Shashank's question here, guys, and it'd be interesting to see what everyone else in the chat also is thinking. But guys, did this movie distress you to the point of not sleeping? It certainly did that with me. Only happened twice before with The Green Mile. Boy, that was a weave. Frank Darabont was, you know what? For a long kind of classic Hollywood weeper, he really kind of brought some good. He brought that home. And Seven. Back to David Fincher. I you know what? If you guys don't mind, I'll start. I'll answer this question first. No, this one did not bother me viscerally as much. And I had no problem sleeping. Partly I'm in my 50s. I've seen a lot of gross movies, Shawshank. But no, I think some of it is, Seven disturbed me in a way that I would never rewatch that movie. And I think actually David Fincher has certain work where it looks like he takes pleasure in, like, his torture is so fetishized and stylized in these films. I get the icky feeling that he's kind of enjoying showing it. Whereas this one, there's enough little bits of weird comedy, and even it's like you're given a hint and then everything else is sort of off to the side. Like even when he's trying to kill himself, I thought it was several times. This is a guy who knows less is more, talking about the director. Anyway, but I don't... Seven really disturbed me. I still managed to sleep. I stay up late enough to go to sleep. Green Mile, loved that film. Got an emotional reaction from me, but I had no problem sleeping. This definitely. There you go. That might say something awful. Jim.
Well, I guess I'll find out because I just watched it today. I don't know if that hasn't happened to me too many times. It tends to happen. Oh, what Jameson just cut in there. It happened way back in the day. We had our son was less than a year, and we saw Saving Private Ryan for better or for worse. I'm not sure where that lies now, but it was pretty. Seeing it in the theater, I sort of and having a little guy at home, it sort of I was all primed for being affected a little more when I saw it then. But not too many. Sometimes if I see like some sort of serial killer thing, or more particularly if I'm reading true crime, I sometimes will have. I'll have trouble sleeping, but not. I don't think this so much. It was fantastical enough that I can separate it from reality. I can compartmentalize, I think.
Yeah. Kyle, what did you like on a disturbing meter? Where would you, with those three films, what would you put at the most and at the least? Or are you all like, I was eating ice cream and cake the whole time?
All I could say is I don't sleep. I don't sleep at all, but no, it's not that I don't lose sleep at all, and really, most movies don't really shake my core anymore because of how much I just I don't know. I watch too many movies just to like stay awake.
How much you know how they're made?
About how much they're made, but not only that, like just how certain films are perceived, and really, Seven definitely was disturbing, especially at the end. For the spoiler alert, most people do not expect like the bad guy to win, and this is one of those films that the bad guy wins, and yet you just think about it going like, holy shit, the bad guy wins. Damn, this is pretty all right, and yet it's literally the truth. Like sometimes good does not triumph over evil, and yet and as for the Green Mile, like yes, it sucks that a character does like have that effect, but no, for me, this movie did not disturb me in any way. Like it shook me in a sense of like, holy crap, I did not expect that twist, but at the same time, like not really much that, like example, Human Centipede. I don't watch what's it called, that torture porn shit. Also, like just
Hostel and
stuff like that. Like none of those films shake me to my core. None of these films like that make me lose sleep at all because of how like I don't even think Lovecraftian horror even does that to me at all. And it's really rare for like anything to do that, because you have to have that existential dread of like, oh shit, I can't sleep because this thing affected me. I rarely have that. That's the weird part about me, is like, yep, nothing really affects me right now.
You're a weirdo. Okay, we got a couple of comments from the Peanut Gallery here. First, Ahmed Jelly Duck chimed in on thought Seven was disturbing. There does seem to be a theme about, or at least if we were counting votes, Seven is topping a few lists. Thought Morgan Freeman delivered. We got a guy on Facebook, Jamie, talking about a couple of handsome fellas, but I was like, what about our guest Kyle? And Jamie, I'm sure Kyle is just as handsome as the rest of us. But back to the Shawshank's excellent question. Richard didn't have trouble sleeping after this, but thought the tongue scene when he cut out his own tongue at the end, found out was a little
There was even a sound effect
around the mouth, and food. And Jamie, then he chimes in. Seven scared the shit out of him, so much so that he does not celebrate anyone's 7th birthday. Harsh. Some John, how come Uncle Jamie's not coming over? Because your Uncle Jamie's.
You're turning 7. Don't turn 7.
Oh, wait.
What's in the box, Johnny?
Look at this BS. Jamie, I can't even say 7-Eleven out loud, so we'll say it for you. I call it 8 minus 1, 11. What the?
You have a cute fear for the number 7.
You need brackets, your order of
And
operation.
I'm wondering, are you actually like afraid of the Roman numeral 7 also?
Oh, good. Excellent question, Kyle. Going back to, I'm wondering for you guys, like, I mean, if you're any of the like, I mean, I thought all the I thought all the performances were bang on. That said, I don't know if you'd agree with me, guys, but sometimes watching, like, I mean, you know, one of the great things about watching a foreign film and actors you're not familiar with, how do you like to put it, Jim? You're unfamiliar. None of us know their tricks, their ticks, their, you know. Whereas when I see Tom Cruise, and I do think he's a great actor, but I kind of know his shtick. So there's times when he's doing this stuff. But yeah, otherwise, like if I was just talking about the performances, I thought they were all like solid. But what did you guys think, Kyle?
Like, definitely Choi Min-sik has a very dynamic range from being a character actor to a full character himself, and yet he really disappears from who he is into being Odesu. Even in, like I said, in I Saw the Devil, you would not believe that this actor could be so malicious in I Saw the Devil, and that's where it's really interesting to see like different actors do something like this. And let's go with Josh Brolin being this character. You're just like sitting there going like, really? And then and it brings back to the fact like, oh yeah, Josh Brolin was Thanos and is now Thanos in Avengers, and Elizabeth Olsen is now Scarlet Witch in Avengers. This hurts my head. Like the amount of times that we've seen these actors so many goddamn times, and I'm just like, I'm done. Let me watch something different.
That's a great point. Yeah. Oh, somebody's leaving us. All right, Jamie. Thanks for popping in.
Holy cow, he's all in with this.
Jamie's comedy gold. he's got the bad comedy skills.
Thanks for chiming in.
Thanks for Jamie. Thanks for dropping in. Guys, Kyle. Oh, what is he saying? He is okay with it. Awesome. That's fantastic. Here's one of the things I kind of, and again, back to those Greek themes, I'm wondering if part of the sin, like the initial sin that Odazu, like, because otherwise it just would have been just some generic jerk, probably got divorced because he's got a drinking problem and he's kind of an asshole. You know, like even when we're learning about how these characters, when we learned that Odaizu's wife is dead, and you know they're reporting about everyone, and it's like, oh yeah, he used to get into drunken fights with his neighbors because he's an asshole.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, because one of the things was only later on, so he sees Woo Jin and his sister, character name I can't remember. Thank you. They are, about to make love. And again, going back to that, if it's a Greek thing, well, whenever you spy upon the gods, when you catch them in flagrante delicto, it's always that is the sin you committed. It's not even the talking. You spied them, they caught you. If it's Artemis, you get turned into an animal and hunted down by your own dogs. If it's Aphrodite, and you could almost say that Sunwa,
Suwa,
Suwa, thank you. Suwa, her character, is the Aphrodite of this, and he has to pay for that sin already. He might have been doomed in spying them. and just spying on them. But you buying any of that? Like, because the more I look at this, the more I think this is a Greek tragedy.
Honestly, it definitely does. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like Greek mythologies and Greek stories were definitely like always the pinnacle of like first stories, and then it would get retold. Same thing with Shakespeare's plays; they would get retold every time, like Hamlet or even like Romeo and Juliet. Everyone will go back like, oh yeah,
going back to that human condition, not that individualist. Shashank, thank you so much for coming out. We'll, like I said, we're going to hear from Shashank one more time in this show. So he may be leaving, but we will hear from him again because he was kind enough to do an intro video, which we'll put near the end when we announce our next movie. All right. So let me ask you guys this: was there any? I'm trying to. Oh wait, just a sec here. I did write down a bunch of stuff. Did you ever think, like, because it's even referred to, and this one I didn't quite buy actually, the Count of Monte Cristo reference?
Oh,
Did you think it was fair?
I'm not super familiar with that text. I'd have to. I mean, maybe if you asked me years ago, but I'd have to. I know there was a number of references to it, but yeah, I'd have to look it over again myself or refamiliarize myself with the story.
If I remember,
like he was. Oh, go ahead.
If I remember, the Count of Monte Cristo, the villain himself, literally like. Almost had done. Well, he took over like
his life,
Whereas here it's like
stole his girlfriend,
and whereas here it's like it's not the same kind of feel. Like he's just saying that I'm in the high tower, you come and get me. That's the only reference there is. Whereas like Edmond Dantes just like comes in and says, "Nope, I'm gonna get my revenge." But apparently, the revenge is bittersweet also because he loses everything. If I am correct about that.
Here's another question for you guys. Do you think the final scene or the like you got two ending scenes, he's with the witch, the hypnotist, the witch, the oracle / witch, whatever you want to call her. He's with her and there's the hypnotism, and then there's that final hug where it's like he's smiling, and then it's almost like back to that creepy AF grimace he has. Which scene did you think was more important, that more spoke to the film? What did you think of those two scenes? Like, because I think there's, we could have just ended on the former scene. He saw fit to have that final scene. What did you guys think of it? Jim?
It's almost got that kind of at the end of The Graduate when
we'll come to your question in a sec, Jelly Duck.
Dustin Hoffman gets Catherine Ross out of the church, and all the stuff. But the final shot, if you remember, it's not the Elaine.
No,
but they run out and they catch a city bus, and they get on the bus and they have nothing to say to each other. So it's a little bit of that. I don't know if it's anticlimax or just that kind of. Like maybe that the spell or the incantation didn't fully work, that it maybe there's something bugging him. There's something deep a little bit that he can't quite put his finger on. So maybe that I buy that. I think you needed to see her at the end. Apparently that scene I think I was reading was shot in New Zealand for some reason. But anyway, so I think you needed to see Mee-do at the end just to see that, she was present and still in his life. But it was a little bit of a kind of I don't think they're easily let off the hook at the end. There's going to be something that bugs them, I think.
What about you, Kyle? What are some of your thoughts on those last couple of scenes?
So I could actually answer that question that Jelly Duck actually answered too. I'll get to that part in a bit.
The alternate ending. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Because
I what I remember was watching that scene for the first time, and when he's hypnotized to split himself into two, and then you're seeing the chair, and then his footsteps right there. It's like, does he actually know? And that does he actually know? Especially with the smile at the end with Mito. I don't think it would not like work if we didn't see Mito there, because it's like, yeah, let's give him a proper happy ending, because we just gave him like, just put him through a ringer. We actually put him through the gambit of like, here's all this shit. Now let's give him something happy. But is he gonna be really happy? We don't know. And like, even though Jim, you said it's like The Graduate, we don't know what they're heading into after this, and it's really that type of ending that it's an ending that you could be satisfied with or disagree with, and yet I'll definitely like break everyone's mind now. There is not an alternate ending. There's an extension of that ending that no one knows about, where and it's in the deleted scenes of the DVD where
really,
yeah, and Woojin actually sees the hypnotist before all this and says to him, he will come to you and ask for this. So make sure he remembers.
Okay. Oh, make sure he remembers. All right. Well, there you go, folks. We said this was you're in a spoiler zone.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Which explains why that was deleted. So to actually leave it ambiguous as that has that bigger impact. Whereas if we actually got that full ending, it doesn't have that.
That's dissatisfied. That is incredibly. Yeah, that was a good cut.
Yeah.
Like I see why they wrote it and shot it, but that was a good cut.
Mm-hmm.
For myself, initially, until talking to you guys about it, I thought that the important part, and I was comparing it to Inception, and I thought the important part was done in that he made this choice, his final choice, in a whole movie where he got to make choices. His free will, although was affected, it wasn't denied him. And his final choice was still selfish and, I'll be the beast. You know what? He could have chosen to remember and then went to her and said, we're not doing this anymore. Bore that burden himself, let her do the right thing by his daughter. But no, selfishly, I want my cake and I want to eat it too in the most disgusting way imaginable. And then the last scene is given to us. Now, my original thinking was, it's kind of like the top in Inception, where it's, and I think I would say he's Nolan in that was just doing it to just kind of give a little hook to the viewer, but thematically he had already answered the question. He achieved what he needed to achieve. He let go. I'm talking about a section now. That character had not just a happy ending, a satisfying ending. It really didn't. In the end, I think in Inception, the character had the ending he needed, which was, I got to let go of worrying about what reality is. I got to move on with my life, even though he might be in the dream world. I really was like, kind of quit trying to decide like it's a code, you dipshit.
Exactly.
Now, all of a sudden, listening to you guys, though, and I'm like, it's more important that we're not sure here because unlike Inception, here, still a bad guy doing a shitty thing. He's choosing to,
be happy, but at the same time,
and especially because it's, even though I'm a beast, do I not deserve to live? Yeah, sure, you deserve to live. Doesn't mean you deserve to. Your dog.
Hopefully they don't have kids, but
Sweet home Alabama.
There go our Alabama viewers.
What?
For those who don't know that joke.
That's so bad. All right. So yeah, you know what? I think we're kind like it's weird. You know what? In some of the fails, in some ways we have more to talk about. But that said, Jim, what do you have any? What was some of your other takeaways? Anything else you wanted to?
Just really, the sense of. After hearing, if you haven't seen the movie and just hearing about it,
Kyle's still laughing.
Yeah, I think so.
I can't believe I let myself be on this show. Whatever minor career I ever had is destroyed.
No. That's the comment that came. The song is stuck in my head. You're welcome and sorry.
Ahmed,
it's all Kyle Wong's fault.
Yep. No, it just how kind of, especially the first hour, it was really quite, like, I was kind of jazzed that I had chosen it. It got a little heavier, I think, into the second hour, but just that first hour with the energy and the way they used music had a nice. I'm not sure if the score is original. They used a lot of classic, well-known classical music too. But just the sort of the humor behind it, the humor of the script. What was it? Yeah. I wrote down the phrase "generous bastards" that somebody said, and there was a reference to this gas, it's Valium gas used by the Russians on the Chechens. I think that might be a reference to the theater takeover in Moscow, if you remember. So just these weird weird connections.
Right. Yes,
and the other thing too is that after all this, and this isn't a joke, but after all this. Another weekend of 9/11 programming, and I always find myself watching interviews and 102 minutes that changed America and all that kind of thing. I thought, okay, no more 9/11 stuff. I'm going to watch Oldboy, and then right on that sort of the montage about time passing. Of course, they show the world 9/11. And back then, that was about 2003, so that would have still been pretty fresh for a lot of folks, I think. But it's still arguably pretty fresh right now. Just other than all that, just the sort of the humor of it, just the sort of the beats and the that whole police station scene and his buddy going, he's really a great guy. and then he goes, yeah, I'm a great guy. You fuckers. And then
I'll come back to visit you later.
And you see the unseen police officers are like, please don't come back. There was just sort of a neat back and forth there. And it set a really weird tone for what, later transpired, but it was the first hour, the first half hour just like jumped right out like a rocket, just the energy and everything else. So I was glad to see that. It was interesting.
What about you, Kyle? Any
it's still
thoughts, or just other things that you think?
Every time I watch this film, I'm like, oh yeah, it starts off with like Odesu holding the suicide guy by the necktie, and it's like, okay, you're ready to tell. I'm ready to tell you a story. Are you ready to tell the story? And it just goes with his background. Like, here's where I've been for the past 15 fucking years. Yeah. And as an audience member, you're like, dude, sorry. I'm really sorry that you've been to this. And it's exactly what we said. He gets up. This guy's about to tell us. I don't care about your story. This is my story.
Oh, yeah. Now it's my turn. Yeah. And he just walks away.
He walks away. It's like, no, fuck your story. And we're stuck with this character. And yet it has that weird dark humor to it, which Korea, it really does dark humor really right. In its own weird way of okay, we have this rising tension, and the next thing, here's a bit of humor. How you're gonna take this? We don't care. This is our way of dealing with certain tension. This is our humor, and that's where this nice balance of tension and humor really works well in the film. And then when it gets into the tension, to the action, to this tragedy right after, is well balanced to the point where you cannot take your eyes off of it. You follow this character. And whereas most revenge stories, or even just any story, if a character is done wrong, written wrong, or just
the framing is wrong of it. You're just like, why are we following this character? You're not even that interesting. Whereas Odesu, you are stuck with this character from beginning to end to find out why he was imprisoned. And once you find out, it's like, nope, you have to. It's like that you're asking the wrong question. Why were you imprisoned? Not, I've imprisoned you for this. It's like, why did I let you out? Yeah. And that's where like the twist of the whole revenge story is really well done. And yet, like, I haven't seen much like anyone else do that where it sticks with you. Like, okay, that was pretty fucked up. That there's a revenge behind the revenge, and yet, whereas like I'll still go to I Saw the Devil. Whereas the revenge really sticks with someone in a different way, and like it. This is one of the many Korean films that really sticks with the audience of like, this is how the human condition of revenge is on a person, and really well done, that I still can't, to this day, cannot be emulated. Looking at the stupid remake, exactly, like, it didn't need to be remade, and yet that's all I can say about that.
No, that's it. Those are great comments.
I have a question for you, Rob. Had you seen a lot of this kind of like Korean movie in the past?
Remember, a few years ago, I wanted to kind of get into it, and I think you and I, we watched like one. It was the good, the bad, and the ridiculous, or what was
the
that?
Weird, the good, the bad, the weird.
Thank you. Yeah.
And it was like, I brought kimchi along. I found some kimchi at Safeway.
I want to get into kimchi cinema.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Which no one picked up as a reference. I'm a little shocked. But after that, I just couldn't quite. Just your movie tastes. You're forever kind of going from one movie to another. I am going back to it was your suggestion. I don't. I'm glad we watched it. It was one of those. It's. I really am. I thought it was a great movie. Like I don't know about you guys, but I could easily qualified. Recommend this to almost anyone. Like, again, I'd be saying, the gender politics, they're terrible. Mm-hmm. Be aware. You don't have to do, though, that kind of weird qualifying you'd have to do with 16 Candles, which sounds insane, but you're like, terrible. Just and tragically Greek.
So that was the codicil of my question: is what did you think of it as a, on its own, and then as a Korean movie? Not that you have a lot to sort of compare it to, but
I would say, Jim, on it, like, it's a solid movie. Like, okay, let's say on the one hand, like, just on the craft, the filmed story, there's a solid beginning, middle, and end. It does some very cool things. It has a lot going for it, in part because it's so, in some ways, so straightforward. Mm-hmm. It's it's Oedipus Rex wrapped in as seen through a revenge thriller, a noir revenge thriller. You really just say noir as modern tragedy. So modern Greek tragedy. So, but it wasn't like, when we were talking about Da 5 Bloods, where it's like, there's three expletive here movies, and it's just, talk about overstuffed. It's throwing everything at it. And so everybody's screaming. Here, it's like, no, you've taken one thing that you really want to explore, and you're using this as a lens into it. And so we get so much more by, I think Kyle had mentioned it before. Like, I mean, that it's simple, like, or let's say, less is a less is more kind of movie.
Yeah.
It spends time. What do we have? Like 4 or 5 characters, and a couple of supporting players. We get that first, like Jim, it's the first solid 20 minutes we get to know Odaizu as he acts. Mm-hmm. Even when he's trapped in a goddamn hotel room, we know him in a way, because they no telling, all showing. Even his voiceover is solid voiceover, because good voiceover should be just telling us what we're already seeing.
Yeah.
And so I think so. Yes, it's a solid, a well-crafted film. Where you could say, yes, okay, here, you want to do something like this? Watch this guy's work. As a I was really surprised, at how it's and this would be my own. I'm a white North American in my 50s, so I was surprised at how Greek it was, and I'm like, what would he have any interest in? And it's like, and it's like, and so there's that bit of cultural bias. Going, but otherwise, as far as Korean film goes, makes me want to watch more. Makes me want to watch the movies that you guys have referred to, that some of our others have referred to. Like one of the exciting things about this project, Jim, is how we've been looking at other films. Like, we've taken a deep dive into Norway. Now we're moving into Asia.
Yeah.
Actually, this isn't the first Asian film we saw. It's definitely the best Asian film we've seen so far. But I thought it was just a solid movie.
Just inform Kyle. I think the one you're referring to is The Wandering Earth.
Yeah, I've heard many things about that one, and I have my own opinion later about that, but I'm not going to say anything. And it's kind of funny that you mentioned that you guys saw The Good, the Bad, the Weird. That director actually made I Saw the Devil. So
really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, all the more reason.
Yeah. So like I said, The Good, the Bad, the Weird is definitely a nice piece of Western bizarro comedy, but. Yeah. Whereas I Saw the Devil plays almost to exactly the same kind of feel of Oldboy, but amps it up to 100 of the revenge fantasy to the point where you're like, I want to turn my eyes away, but holy fuck, why? And I just remember watching it. Like I said, I was in university, and I just remember what my French teacher actually says. I saw the devil in that week, and I was like, I wonder how this movie is. And then I watch it on TV, and it's on TV, and I'm just like, my French teacher watched this? Holy shit!
Really?
Yeah, and that's where I'm just like, yep, this film does stick with you because of from beginning to end. You're like, how does this all play out? And. Yep. And it's exactly like
Oldboy story. Yeah, known. So before we, we're kind of wrapping up now. Kyle, first of all, first, thank you so much.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Joining us. Really, this was a lot of fun. This was cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Stick around for a bit. After the show, Jim and I always have kind of a little wrap up, and you're more than welcome to join us for a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
We take a potty break.
Of course.
We have a beer. Jim, before we Kyle, back to you, Kyle. Do you is there anything you want to, is there any film you want to, anything you're working on, maybe a creative project that you would like to promote right now?
Oh God, I can't even say it yet because
say you're not ready. That's cool too.
It's like all I can say is right now. I guess however many people are watching right now, it is completed. I worked on a film. Rob helped me on a film that we did back in March. We completed before worldwide quarantine, and it is a film called Night Watch. I cannot divulge what the plot is yet, but all I can say is it is the last and final. Okay, I shouldn't say it was final. It is definitely one of the last Winnipeg film productions that was completed before COVID guidelines, safety guidelines.
Right. Yeah, that's right. You were right at the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So nobody had to kiss any mannequins.
No one had to kiss any mannequins, nothing. we had a great ass fight scene, that's for sure. We had a lot of things in this film that you wouldn't believe that got completed, and after like literally 3 weeks ago.
Jelly Duck. Thanks for
Yeah.
popping.
Yeah, thank you, Delia. And
anyway, sorry. So
no, don't worry.
film?
It's officially completed now, and like,
wow,
it's completed.
It's a release. Kind of. When are you hoping to release it?
I can't comment on that right now.
Okay.
All I can say is we'll talk in the after.
Okay.
In the post graph, like,
you know what though, I am gonna ask you publicly. I'm gonna say, listen, you'll make sure you keep us Jim and I in tune so that we when it's public, we can be one of the first people to shout it out and let our several viewers know. So they know where to see it and everything. Okay. Yeah. So on that note, everyone, thank you all so much for coming by. Jim, do you want to, before we do have an intro video, but Jim, do you want to quickly just announce what our next film is? Do you remember?
Certainly. First of all, Easter egg. Korean flag. Yeah. Anyway, I couldn't find the tape.
Do that again. Let's get you on full on screen.
Yeah.
Oh, you need to get those flags somewhere where we can. I
know. I couldn't find the tape. It was like 9:29. I'm like, where's the tape? Anyway, so next week, based on a viewer recommendation, we are watching Indian
Shashank. It's a good friend Shashank,
who's busy in class right now or online in class down in Chennai, India. We are watching something called 3 Idiots.
And yeah, so good grief, I'm having a hard time speaking right now. Shashank actually made an intro video for us all, so I'm going to play that, and then we'll what's the word I'm looking for? I'm going to play that, and then we'll say goodbye to everyone. We'll cue the outro, and we'll move on with the others. But first, here is Shashank's spiel on this. Let me put it up.
Hello everybody, I'm Shashank, a budding YouTuber, and I'm here to introduce you to one of the most popular Indian films, 3 Idiots. So 3 Idiots is a dramedy about 2 college friends, Farhan and Raju, who go on a journey to discover their friend, Rancho, and on this journey, they revisit their college memories and recall how their friend helped them to think differently. The film is based on a popular novel, 5 Point Someone, by the famous author Chetan Bhagat. So the film brings together some of the finest actors in Indian cinema to play the leading roles. The 3 college students are played by Aamir Khan as Rancho, the free-spirited student who detests the extreme rigors of the college system. R. Madhavan as Farhan, someone who harbors a dream but is not bold enough to challenge his parents' wishes. Sharman Joshi as Raju, who is convinced that the path chosen by his parents should be the right path. Now, Aamir Khan is considered to be the gold standard in acting, and he's given many mega hits like Tare Zameen Par and Dangal. Madhavan is one of the very few actors who has been equally successful in Bollywood as well as Kollywood, which is the Tamil film industry. Sharman Joshi has played many memorable supporting roles and has once again pulled off a great performance in this film. Boman Irani is a versatile character actor with several memorable performances, and he plays the role of a dictatorial college director. Kareena Kapoor is one of the biggest female stars in Bollywood and plays a capable doctor who falls in love with Rancho. It is the highest rated Indian film in the IMDb Top 250 list and holds a 100% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, one of the major reasons why this film struck a chord with the Indian audiences and became the top grosser at that point is because of its themes. One of the major themes of the film is the stinging criticism of the Indian education system, which encourages students to rote learn, combined with the parental pressure they have to face to follow the beaten path. In its essence, it encouraged people to believe that being different is a good thing. This film has a global following and its message continues to remain relevant even today. All of the factors combined resulted in it creating a mini revolution of sorts in India and in countries that have similar educational systems like China. People viewed this film as a call to action for them to pursue their dreams and not be restricted by conventional wisdom. Usually, the Indian films fall under two major categories: the epic, romantic, melodramatic musicals and the films that are made on social subjects. Three Idiots holds a unique distinction as it managed to bridge the gap between both the types of audience.
All right, everybody. That's the show. Again, I
Wow.
want to thank.
That was great. He's got sound effects.
He does.
And
I have not
lights.
been able to get sound. Okay, again, everyone, thank you all so very, very much for coming to the show. Kyle, thank you very much. Please, again, stick around.
Yep,
And,
no problem.
yeah, let's all just give a nice, gentle wave to everyone, and then I'm going to. It's time to cue the outro.
Kamsa Hamnida.
Thank you all.